Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our exclusive Global Leading Voices webinar campaign. We are delighted to have you join us here today. Please be informed that if you have any questions during the presentation, you may type them into the question box in your control panel. The presenter will answer your questions at the end of the presentation accordingly. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to our presenter, who will begin shortly.
Hello everyone, good morning, good evening, good afternoon for people across the world who've joined this webinar. This webinar is on strategies to become a successful business leader. This wonderful session is co-hosted by PECB and Paradigm Innovations. We'll talk more about these two organizations towards the end as what we provide. So welcome and enjoy the session. So I'll be your host. My name is Mansoor Mohammed. I'm the first PFMP certified from Australia. I'm also the director for PMI Sydney chapter and also the knowledge management lead for PMI Global. I have my training and consulting company. I also teach in the universities as well as I'm currently doing my PhD. So let's begin the journey. Our today's agenda will be a little further introductions, vision, mission, and pillars of business. Applying Kotter's model for business, so that's very important. So I'll be discussing the 8-step Kotter process. A powerful trait of a successful leader. So what becomes a leader? What is the making of a leader? Difference between a leader and a manager, right? So those things will be out in discussions. And finally, question and answers. You can keep sending your questions and you can send chat to the platform, and then towards the end, we can answer your questions. Thank you. All right, a little more about me here. So this is my email address. My organization email address is info@paradigminnovations.com. I help entrepreneurs, I help business people achieve their goals, strategies. I've worked with venture capitalists. I work with currently about 20 startups across the world, including building platforms, right? Having cutting edge technology. I've worked with companies like EMC, currently working with Airbus helicopters to set up the PMO. So that's a little about myself. You can add me on LinkedIn. Just type in Mansoor Mohammed. I'll be there with about 11,800 plus connects. Happy to connect you all on LinkedIn and help you in your entrepreneurship journey and to become a successful leader. All right. So what does it take to become a successful leader, a business leader? The first and foremost point is you need to have a dream. You need to have a conviction, right? So every business has a conviction, a dream, a vision, right? So the vision talks about where would you like to take your organization. You need to have this long-term vision. You need to have an horizon of 10 to 15 years thought as to where you would like to lead your organization to and what is the state you're looking your organization to be in. So that plays a very important role. And yes, we allow our business leaders to dream big, right? So we always hear about dreaming big. So having a vision is very, very important. But also aligning businesses and aligning team members towards a vision plays a very, very important role, right? So that is very important. So having a dream big, and aligning organization towards a vision plays a very important role. Having an organization mission plays a very important role. That is the what and the why. It tells you, yes, you have a dream. How do we achieve the dream? And what numbers are we looking at? Are we looking in next 5 years, 10 years, percentage, right? So a mission helps deliver a vision statement. So that is the alignment. Once we have a vision and a mission in place, then we start looking at strategic objectives and strategies, right? So we look at SMART goals, objectives, values, and strategies. So when we talk about strategies, strategies are about the decisions we take or fail to take. It's about the decisions we make or fail to make. For example, many of you might remember that the mobile phones were launched quite early in the 80s. So there is an Iridium case study of satellite phones, the Motorola's, the Ericssons. They got out the phones and said they let us penetrate the market up to 5%. And there was a company which came up with a vision statement called "Let's connect people," which was Nokia. And Nokia started manufacturing mobiles and marketing mobiles, and they wanted to connect people with a great dream of connecting everyone, and they started launching the mobile phones. Nokia was quite successful for quite some time until the new technology which came in changed the way how Nokia works. So while the technologies were embracing emails, Nokia still had SMS and the old platforms and the old operating systems running on their phones. So one day there was a man who came up with a dream saying that yes, there should be a phone which changes the way how people interact, and with just a single touch, the iPhone was born, followed by the other phones, the Androids, and the other people in the market. And today we have a mobility space which is crowded with a lot of innovation. And tomorrow you never know. These players may become obsolete, or they may not be in business, or things might change because of the change in technology, right? So when we talk about strategies, and that's part of my PhD, I talk about strategies is about the choices we make or fail to make. It's about the decisions we make or fail to make at this point of time. So that plays a very, very important role. It's all about looking ahead of the horizon and staying ahead in the game, right? So a business leader needs to have a vision, which may be hazy. He needs to align an organization with the vision. There is a mission, which is talking about integrated financial projections, long-term directions, and their strategies. And to deliver this vision, mission, and objectives, strategic objectives, we have portfolios, programs, and projects. Okay? So an organization can divide its endeavors or works into project, programs, and portfolios. And it could include even the operations. Operations are for business as usual. All right. So vision describes expected future state and how does it provide a long-term direction. A vision is used as a framework for an iterative development for a long-term direction. So vision plays a very important role, aligning people to the vision. One of the best vision statements, what I see as a business leader, is the John F. Kennedy Man on the Moon speech. So he brilliantly said, perhaps I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing the man on the moon and returning him back on the earth safely. So such a beautiful articulated statement which said that by the end of this decade, so he was talking about the 1960s. So America completed their mission to moon in 1969. And it was not about just landing a man on the moon, but also to get him back safely back to Earth, right? So not just sending, but also getting. So this was achieved by NASA, and yes, it played a very important role of being a leader in the space race, which was happening that time. That played a very important role. It allowed the whole country to align Everyone was aligned to this dream. Everyone had a vision, and they try to accomplish this vision which John F. Kennedy had seen. So vision statements are very powerful. So they create a sense where the whole organization, the whole business gets mobilized. So as a business leader, it's very important to create a compelling vision statement and lead by examples where people can follow you in a journey rather than pulling them across towards a vision or a journey. So people should follow you. That's very important. The key component of the vision statements we saw from the previous slide was talking about who? The nation, right? So in your example, it could be the people. The what? So great organizations talk about what would they like to achieve, why would they like to achieve, and how would they like to achieve, right? And the previous statement also saw a promise, that was returning the person back safely. It also had the geographic region. It was a message for the world, but particularly it was for the United States, where it was geographically intended to be. The goal was to land a man on the moon and return him back safely, and that was by the end of the decade. So what a beautiful, perfect statement we hear, right? So it addressed all the components. So there are many such great vision statements we have. And there's a great statement from Martin King Luther. He talks about, I have a dream, right? So that is springboarding. So those are the statements which excite people and they make them jump off their seat and they make them excited. So if you listen to the video, I have a dream, it actually resonates. It stirs people's heart. So as a leader, you need to stir those people's heart and talk about what inspires people and where it should lead to. So that plays a very, very important role. Mission talks about the purpose, the articulation of reason, why the organization exists. It also discusses the philosophy by which the organization will conduct and operate, in what conditions it will operate the projects, programs, portfolios, right? So those play a very, very important role. So the mission and vision drives an organization towards success. So as I discussed, the pillars of business, yes, the organization have strategies, they have portfolio management to align organization strategies, you have programs for delivering benefit to an organization, projects, and definitely operations, which are resources. So there's more of a project management, program management slide. Okay, I would not like to get too much in detail because we are talking about more on leadership here. So yes, these are the pillars of the business. So the business stands on these pillars where the organization has a strategy. And again, when we talk about strategy, yes, the strategy is created by the leadership team from top. But the biggest challenge what we have in our organizations today is the strategy execution. Organizations have great strategies in place, but it's quite difficult for people at the bottom, at the operations level, at the project level, at the program level, to really understand what those strategies are and how can they deliver to the strategies, right? So those things become quite challenging. That is where strategy execution comes into play, where business leaders need to articulate, communicate the strategy at every level of the organization. So right from top until bottom, the whole organization has to be aligned with the vision, mission, and strategy. And if you find your organization's vision, mission are not aligned with the delivery which is happening downstream, as a business leader, you need to align them. That's important. And see how best these initiatives or work can deliver value or benefit to your customers, right? So at the end of the day, it's all about benefit delivery and what adds value to your customer. And again, as beauty beholds in the eye of the viewer, or the person who sees beauty, similarly, an value is defined by the customer. So as business leaders, you need to involve your customers, engage your customers, and definitely take them through a journey and listen to them, and not only hear or not only get to understand what their said needs are, but also their unsaid needs. So you need to hear their said and unsaid needs. Both has to be heard. All right, this is my favorite slide. So as business leaders, when you're talking about developing leadership skills and you're talking about mobilizing the organization and you're talking about your vision and mission, this reminds me about Kotter's 8-step model. Kotter talks about, first, for creating the big opportunity, the first and foremost thing you need is create a sense of urgency, right? So a leader should create a sense of urgency, because the organization goes through a change. With all these things coming in, the organization goes through a change. So creating a sense of urgency plays a very important role. So it's very important for the business leader to ask, why is it now? What if we don't do it now? What happens if I don't do it right now, right? So the organization needs to create a sense of urgency and get the whole organization mobilized for them to understand why now and what if we do not do now. The second is build guiding coalition. So as business leaders, what happens is you need to create a force, you need to create a plethora, you need to create an aura of people where they follow you in a journey, and you need to create a guiding coalition where everyone comes together in the journey and follows you in the journey. Number 3, form strategic visions and initiative. Yes, we spoke about the vision statement. You need to create your strategies and visions and initiatives, and you need to form them and you need to create them. That's very important. That plays a very important role. Number 4, you need to enlist, you need to volunteer and create an army. You need to create a list of people, right? So you need to know who your champions are, who your business leaders are, and who are your sponsors, who are your executives, right? So you need to understand who they are and enlist their support. So I tell most of my business leaders, entrepreneurs, whoever I mentor quite a lot of people in their business. People come with great ideas, great proposals, great thoughts. I help them take their ideas to reality. So I tell these guys, hey, you know what? You need to have a guiding coalition where you need to build and enlist people's support. It's very, very important, because as a team, we can move mountains. It's very important. So you need to create that force. It's very, very important to create that force. Number 5 is to enable action by removing barriers. So barriers will be there. People will have a lot of barriers. They'll have a lot of challenges. So it's very important for you to remove those barriers and see how organizations and teams move beyond these barriers. So as a business leader, you need to remove impediments. You need to remove the roadblocks. You need to remove the barriers, right? So hurdles, barriers should be removed. And the business leader should show a compelling vision saying that, hey, you know what? I'm a leader to enable things for you. It's not a top-down approach, or it's not about command and control approach we are talking about. Here we are working as a team. Here I'm talking about enabling people. I'm talking about empowering people. I'm talking about decentralizing decision making, right? So if there's a decision which has to be taken by your teams, by your project managers, program managers, and right people, entrust them to make these decisions, right? Provide them ways and means to become a high performing team. The key ingredient of a high performing team is feedback, honesty, courage, allowing teams to speak up whenever they have made a mistake. So I used to communicate in EMC. I used to work for a company called EMC Data Storage Solutions. And EMC, I used to encourage my team members and my business unit people, uh, guys, you know what? It's human to make mistakes, but not to repeat those mistakes, right? So that's important. And allow people to fail faster. So recently, as a consultant, I've been to one of the major organizations, and I saw a business leader uh, talk about his experience. And his experience was his team failed in delivering a project. And one of his directors wanted his team to be retrenched. But however, this gentleman, he spoke to his senior execs and asked the team to retain. He did not want to lose his team because they were working in a duopoly way of setup. So if this organization retrenches people, they would go into another organization, and this organization's loss would be someone else's gain. So this person said, let's allow them to have a second chance and go further. And this awesome team who had failed once, and where the management team had created trust, they actually outperformed the expected benefits and value which they were thinking that they could not deliver, to surpass the expectations of the senior management. So empowering and trusting people help build a high performing team, and that is a true quality of a leader, where you need to enable your teams to move forward. Number 6 is to generate short-term wins, quick wins, very important, right? Celebrating success after these quick wins. It's very important. So you need to show those low-hanging fruits being delivered. You need to show how your organization can deliver these quick wins, how your teams can deliver these quick wins, right? Celebrate victories, celebrate success. Get your team energized and say, hey, you know what? This was a short-term win, great win. And there is the next challenge coming ahead, and there is a next one, and there is a next one, and there is a next one, right? So by articulating that vision, by showing the direction, and also creating the short-term wins plays a very important role. Number 7, sustenance and acceleration. So yes, it's not only important for teams and organizations to move ahead. As business leaders, you need to talk about how will you sustain this? How will this change? How will this guided collusion force we have created? How will this strategic vision? How will this volunteer of army we have created accelerate and reach the next destination, right? And also not only reaching, but also sustaining. Sustenance plays a very important role. So reaching the peak, reaching the summit is difficult. Reaching the Himalayas is difficult. Climbing the Mount Everest is very, very difficult. But once you reach there, you are among the elite few. And you need to make your teams very clear that yes, we are here. We took all our efforts to reach on top, but we need to sustain that. It's just not climbing on the top, but how do I remain on the top, right? That's very important. Many organizations fail to maintain sustenance. They try, they go on top, and they perish or they disappear. because they've not seen the strategies changing around them, and one day these strategies would perish this organization, right? So I would talk to my senior business leaders and the people who I mentor, saying that there should be some strategic agility and there should be strategies which people should look at, revisit at, rather than just having them top down and leaving them as is. There should be an approach where people actually revisit their strategies. Last and final, the last point in Kotter model is about institute the change, embed the change. So the change what we have created, the model what we have created, we talk about how do we institutionalize this? How do we embed this in an organization? Because change is very difficult. Yes, changing people, changing cultures, changing environments is very, very awfully difficult. But however, once the change is done, can that change stick? Can those strategies stick? Can those winning streaks of team stick? That plays a very, very important role. So it's very important for organizations to embed that change, sustain that change, and maintain the change. Right? Good. So create, build, form, enlist, enable, generate, sustain, and institutionalize the change. All right, let's move on. So re-emphasizing that again. So first you create the climate of change, engage and enable the organization for change, and implement and sustain change. So create a sense of urgency, form a powerful coalition, create a vision, communicate the vision, empower actions, create quick wins, build on change, and finally make it stick. So that is Kotter's model applying for business leadership, right? So that plays a very, very important role. All right. Now coming to the main point. The 5 most powerful traits of a successful leader. Successful leaders are the power and intellect behind organizations, and they are visionaries charged of steering their brand around the pitfalls. The effective leaders transcend the title of manager or boss and find the right way of combining of charisma, enthusiasm, self-assurance, and also a dose of luck and timing. But the leaders must have these 5 traits which I'm going to discuss in the next few slides. As a leader, it's very, very important to have these 5 traits or 5 qualities, because these are the qualities which would take you to the next level. So they are leaders, they are followers, they are managers, right? It's very important to be a leader where you lead from the front. You'll lead the people towards an unknown destination to a known destination. You're going through forests, you're going through fire, you're going through a lot of different scenarios. You're going into the unknown territories, right? So as a leader, you need to lead them from front. It's very important. And in one of my classes in the university, a student asked me, what's the difference between a leader and a manager? And just as a joke, I just said, you know what? Leaders inspire and managers aspire. So leaders make people follow. And for people to follow, you need to be charismatic. You need to lead by examples. You need to talk. You need to walk the talk. You need to take people to a different area or plethora, or you need to take them to a different world where they see. And every individual in your team or organization would have a question. What is it for them? What is it for me? What is it for an individual? Right? So that plays a very, very important role. You need to answer that key question. What is it for them? How is it impacting them? And that can be done once you have a clear vision and get them towards a journey and mobilize the organization towards a journey. That plays a very, very, very important role. All right, let's move on. Number one, the most important trait is to be self-managing. It's hard to manage others. If you can't manage yourself, you can't manage others. So you need to be managing yourself first, your time, your health, your work-life balance, right? So you need to take care of a few things, and you need to be exceptional in handling stress, balancing professional and personal life. You must remember the importance of compassion. You need to walk in people's shoes. You need to understand from other people's perspective. That is very important. You need to maintain self-control, discipline, action, avoid becoming overly reserved, inflexible, right? So those things are very important. You need to self-manage yourself. You need to prioritize. You need to be responsible for accomplishment of objectives. You need to walk the talk, and you need to lead by examples, right? So that plays a very important role. And you need to leverage on your strengths, play to your weaknesses. You may have times when things don't work. You may have a time when there is a time when you go down the spiral, right? You need to quickly bound yourself and see how best you can come out of the downward spiral and move up. Because as a leader, you are infectious. You make people believe in you. You make people see what you're doing. People will see. So in one of the organizations which I was working, our senior directors were asked to keep a mirror in front of every manager's desk. So every manager's desk had a mirror, and every hallway had a big mirror. The key idea was for everyone to see themselves even before talking to someone. Are they smiling? Are they self-contained? Are they inspiring people? That was important. So managing yourself where people see you exactly what your strengths are, how you can play to strengths, how would you handle stress, how would you balance your professional and personal life. That plays a very important role. So self-managing is a key, a first step to become a leader and become a great leader. Set your goals, make plans, get to work, stick with it, reach the goal, right? So that's the power of self-management. You need to climb the ladder. You need to set your goals. Where are you today? Where would you like to be tomorrow? Make some plans. Stick to your plans, right? Sometimes plan works, sometimes plans don't work. It's important to have a plan. Have a strategic plan. Plan your day. Do one task in a day. Plan a task and see how best you can achieve the task. The simplest task you can do in a day is to make your bed, right? And if you're not able to do anything at the end of the day, you can come back and sleep on that bed and say, yes, I could do this one task. So it's very important to set goals for yourself, right? I use a lot of sticky pads, sticky notes to write what I need to accomplish today and tomorrow, and I keep writing that and I keep striking them off. Keep making plans. Set yourself high goals. Reach those high goals. And believe in yourself. And it's very important to believe in yourself. And you are your own competitor. It's you who is your own competitor. Right? Compete with yourself. People are in a rush. People want to compete with someone else. People would say, yeah, let's do this. Let's go ahead and make 10 million, 100 million, 40 million, 60 million, $1 billion, right? And they compete with each other. A healthy competition is good. It's important for the plethora. But I believe a leader should compete with himself. That's important. A leader should believe that, yes, this is what it is, and this is where we should reach it. So that plays a very, very important role. The second and most important point is acting strategically. So it's very important for organizations to think strategic, and they need to be curious. The young leaders need to be curious. They need to think how they are going and where they are going and which direction they are going. So the leaders need to understand the complexities and capabilities and see how the organization is going ahead. Leaders must always prepare to adjust the strategies, capture the emerging opportunities or tactical unexpected challenges. So that's very important for organizations to be curious. The leader has to be curious. He needs to find questions. He needs to find answers. He needs to start thinking, how can we do differently? He has to be more flexible in mindset. He has to think about how strategies can be agile. What is the best way of doing things? Focusing on future and thinking about your company's operation conditions, maintain a positive outlook plays a very important role, right? So yes, he needs to show that strength of true leadership and display. That plays a very, very important role. You need to cultivate strategies by being curious, by being flexible, and also encouraging people to think out of the box. Encourage innovation. So encouraging innovation in your teams enhances success because the innovation comes from your team. It's very important. Where your teams get to innovate, your teams get to understand, your teams get to deliver. So it's very, very important for you to maintain a positive outlook, empower people, and act strategically. The third and most important point I would like to highlight is to be an effective communicator. 90% of business leaders' time is spent on communication, right? Whether it's verbal, it is non-verbal, whether it's emails. If people don't understand you, you can't expect them to deliver. So you need to be very clear. You need to articulate. You need to put your point respectfully. Powerful leaders know when to talk and when to listen. They are effective communicators and able to clearly and succinctly explain to their employees everything from the organization's goals, tasks. If people do not understand or aren't aware of your expectations, they will fall short and you need to get them up to speed. So it's very, very important to be an effective communicator. You need to know when to talk, what to talk. And as leaders, we are gifted by God with 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we need to listen more and talk less. Unless it's me who's the instructor or the trainer or the facilitator who's delivering this lecture and you guys are listening to me, right? So it's very, very important to listen. Listen wherever it's needed. Do not interject people when they are talking. Conflicts arise when communications are interrupted. There should be a free-flowing communication between two people. Yes, phones, emails, social media, great ways of communicating. I used to teach my business leaders, if you have a problem, if you have an issue with someone, better pick up the phone and talk to the person rather than sending an email and receiving a response and back and forth where it leads to nowhere. It's good for you to listen. It's very important for you to listen. Talk when it's needed and have a conversation. Have a conversation, people. Encourage conversation. Right? A communication is built to flow verbal and non-verbal communication exchange. So be approachable, involve people from different levels, and exchange your thoughts, exchange your ideas, and enhance communication. Number 4, be accountable and responsible. Very, very important. So as a successful leader, you need to know how to use the power, authority without overwhelming power and overwhelming employees. Leaders should hold themselves accountable, take responsibilities of their own mistake. It's just not pointing fingers at your teams or your organization saying that, hey, you know what, you've made a mistake, and pointing fingers at someone is not good, right? So being accountable, and as a team collectively making people accountable plays a very important role. So you need to support, encourage individuals, also understand organization structures, the policies, how they are able to balance, and creating accountabilities, creating RACI metrics such as who's responsible, who's accountable, who's consult, who's informed work within the teams very well. So being accountable and responsible and holding others accountable and responsible at times is very important. All right. Number 5, having clear goals, smart goals, specific goals, measurable goals, attainable goals, relevant goals, time-based goals, right? So a goal has to be smart. It has to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. It's very important. So that's what it truly boils down to. Remember to write your goals. Define success. As a successful leader, you need to keep going, and you need to stop throwing the towel. You need to keep going, and you need to keep going. You need to climb a mountain and a mountain and a mountain and a mountain until you really, really reach the summits. It's a long journey. It's a tedious journey, but have your goals. Have your long-term goals. Have your short-term goals. You need to have a 5-year plan. You need to have a 3-year plan, 2 years plan. You need to have a roadmap. So setting up goals play a very important role, not only for yourself, for your organization. So as a business leader, the whole organization looks for you. You need to drive them through your charisma. You need to take them to the next level. You need to be a leader where you need to lift the whole organization towards the next role. That's important. All right, so a quick sign off on the courses and the classes I deliver and the mentorship. So I mentor entrepreneurs and business leaders, right? So I have leadership courses. I have project program portfolio management courses. I have courses on innovation management. I encourage organizations to innovate. So those are the courses and things which I deliver. And now I hand over to Hannah, who will talk about the courses which are delivered through PECB. Over
Thank
to
you.
Hannah.
Thank you, Mansoor, for this great presentation. Before we proceed with the question and answer session, I would like to inform you that PECB provides training and certification services for ISO 21500, Introduction, Foundation, Lead Project Manager, and Lead Auditor. ISO 21500 helps you in delivering projects successfully and ensuring a sustainable future. For more information, please visit our website www.pecb.com/training. Now, I would like to proceed by answering some of the questions asked by the audience. Our first question for today is, what are some common mistakes that leaders can make?
All right, that's a very good question. The most common mistake the leaders make is they believe that they are the best and they are the only person who can make a decision. They forget it's a journey where people are involved and they do not involve other people. They go on a journey alone, thinking that rest of the people will follow them. No, it is a journey where you lead people, and it's a collaborative effort where, yes, you have a vision, but it's people's thought. You need to start talking to people who are working day in and day out in your organization. So not getting connected with them is the biggest challenge, and that's the biggest mistake. And again, not understanding from their perspective is one of the biggest mistakes. I hope I answered the question.
Okay, thank you. Another question that we have, based on your experience, what are some pros and cons of Kotter model?
Okay. Some pros and cons of Kotter model. Yes, Kotter model talks about change. It works very well in change. It talks about how the environment has to change. So in a changing model, Kotter works well. It talks about how change is implemented, how organization has changed, right? Yes, in some cases, there are some flip sides of Kotter model where organizations are not able to articulate this pretty well. They So even before talking about a Kotter model, it's very important for the organization to have a culture to embrace this change. So many organizations go in and start working using a Kotter model without even looking at the culture of the organization. Because you might have heard, culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? So you may have great strategies in place, great models in place, but if you do not have a working culture, that negates everything and makes everything into zero, right? So culture. So not fixing the culture and not getting culture up to the speed for change is one of the biggest challenge what I see in implementing Kotter's model. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, thank you, Mansoor. Another question, one of the attendees asked if you could explain a bit more slide 16, which was being an effective communicator.
Okay, very good. So being an effective communicator plays a very important role. So you need to articulate wherever it is needed. So you need to be articulative, you need to talk, you need to understand people, you need to empathize, you need to get into their shoes, you need to understand from their perspective. Individuals have a question, what is it for them, what is it for me? You need to understand from their perspective. You need to be a good communicator, you need to be a good orator, you need to have the people listen to you, you need to create that sense where people will listen to you and they'll follow you, right? So being a good communicator plays a very important role. When I say communicator, it could be verbal, it could be non-verbal communication, it could be any type of communication we are talking about where people understand you and they follow you towards a journey. Hope I answered.
Okay, thank you. Another question that we have is, how does a leader ensure that the organization and its activities are aligned with its core values?
Okay, so the leader creates a leader along with the leadership team creates a vision, right? And the organization has its core values. So the alignment comes from the portfolio layer. So the portfolio managers, the portfolio directors, the business unit leads, they are the ones who drive or strive the organization towards core values. So in EMC, what we used to do was we used to have our mouse pads, right? On our mouse pads, we used to write our organization vision, mission, core values so that people see that vision, mission, and core values day in and day out, and it gets embedded within them. So that was very important. So embedding plays a very important role, and the leadership team should provide support, whatever it takes, for the organization to embed this, and it becomes a culture. It becomes the second nature. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you. Another question that we have is, can we build a project without doing a cultural assessment?
That's a very good question. Can we build a project without doing a cultural assessment? Many organizations jump into a project. Project's got a start, it's got an end. Yes, people get in. But the most important part is the culture, right? So in some cultures, people nod their head and say, yeah, 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 I can do everything. But when you come back next day, nothing is done because they're not taught to challenge the superiors. Okay. So as business leaders, you need to encourage teams to challenge, ask questions, ask people and allow them opportunities to challenge, right? So it's very important to have a cultural assessment, especially when you're working in diversified teams, globally dispersed teams, virtual teams. You need to really understand what the cultures are about the organization, about other part of the geographies. So you need to talk about, you need to think about, you need to evaluate, right? So understanding cultures play a very important role. And just to add a little note here, mm, I travel a lot, quite a lot, and I watch air crash investigators. And there was one video about a Korean Airlines meeting with a disaster. And once the complete investigation was completed, the root cause was communication. The root cause was culture, right? So in some cultures, we are not taught to challenge the superiors. So the co-pilot was trying to communicate danger to the pilot, but the pilot did not hear because of the rank and command, and the culture did not support the challenging of a senior person, right? So that's important where cultural evaluation takes place, and we need to take that quite seriously. Hope I answered the question.
Yes, thank you. Another question is how to manage and lead teams in a multicultural company.
Okay. So managing teams in a multicultural company, you need to understand and you need to create a currency. So when you have a multicultural company, you need to understand what is the common currency we have. What is the common goal we have? How can we create a common currency where everyone works together, right? Making everyone understand, yes, we have different cultures, we have different objectives, we have different initiatives. They're all awesome, they're all good, they're great. But what if my organization doesn't survive? What if my organization does not exist? What happens to you? What happens to me? What happens to all the rest of the organizations or people working across various geographies, various locations, right? So we'll not be there. So it's very important to create a common currency, a common understanding, right? And that's where it takes a lot of effort from a leader to get everyone to that common platform and align everyone across these various cross-cultural, cross-functional teams. I hope I answered the question.
Okay, thank you. Considering the time limitation, we will only be answering one more question, while the rest of the questions will be answered by Mr. Mansoor via email. So the question is, considering your experience, what advice would you give to someone going into a leadership position for the first time?
Okay, first-time leaders are my favorite. So my first-time leaders are very, very important to me as a leader. So if you're moving from technology towards leadership, if you're moving from management towards leadership, first thing is please open your minds, open your hearts, and start thinking big. Avoid getting into the nitty-gritties and details, and do not get into nitty-gritties, right? So there are people who will take care of the nitty-gritties. Trust people, empower them, make people work, create a sense where people believe and trust in you. So that is very important. So as first-time leaders, people try to go in and micromanage people, which is not right. I would tell people, yes, you have been managing, micromanaging, technical, and as first-time leaders, the biggest challenge what I find is when it comes to execution or when it comes to delivery, the first-time leaders, they jump into execution because that's what they've been used to. So it's a change, it's a change. So they need to change their mindset, they need to change their heart, they need to change, they need to make people understand that yes, here we are to empower people, and yes, I'm here not to micromanage, but to create a system where the system works efficiently, effectively, and self-managed. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you once again for this presentation, Mansoor. It was our pleasure to have you as a presenter. I would also like to thank all the attendees for joining us today. Please be reminded that this webinar will be recorded and posted in our YouTube channel as well as in our website, along with the PowerPoint slides. We thank you once again and wish you a wonderful day.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you for hosting me. And I hope everyone had a enjoyable session and hope to cross roads anytime in future. I can be accessible over LinkedIn or any other channel. You can send me an email. Happy to mentor you, happy to assist you in your future. Have a wonderful day ahead and good luck, all aspiring leaders and existing leaders. Thank you.